Hi, everyone. I'm back for another episode of Let's Talk About It. Today, we're continuing our conversation on data analysis and content creation to help you guys as you go along your journey. And also, if any of you are just curious, as we talked about in the first episode, just giving you guys some more insight. Today, I'm joined by Emily Pierce, a cross country and track runner at Campbell University, and Jeremy Burchard, the Chief Creative Officer of RootNote and a lifelong content creator. So I think we have a great episode. Thank you both for coming on the show today.
Of course, thank you.
I want to get started with by just talking about when it comes to content creation, like how like data and insights and stuff has impacted both of your careers.
Yeah. So for me, it's interesting because I'm like a nerd at heart, and I get very excited about understanding why something works or how it's working. So I think for me, more than anything, data has served as a really good gut check, right? Like it's if you feel intuitively like I just don't think I'm getting as much here as I am here, or like wow, this seemed really easy and it's going well. What is it about it? Like it's a great way to kind of like sanity check yourself. And then on the flip side, it's like, how do you feel that day? Every day I wake up and I look at data and I answer comments and stuff, which I'm sure, Emily, you have to, stay engaged with people as well. But it's like some days I'm just like, you know what? I don't really care how this does, and I don't care how the thing did yesterday. I'm just going to make something.
I love that. I've definitely been like that for the podcast, especially. Like, I feel like I do a lot of work to figure out what all of you guys listening like and what you want to hear. But sometimes I just see something in the news or talk about something with my friends and it's going up regardless. I don't care if it gets 3 likes, it's going up.
That's so real. Oh my gosh. I think for about a year, I was making content creation. I was kind of stuck at like 4,000 followers. And I was like, I'm really trying here. I'm putting up a lot of videos, but I just didn't know any analytics. I didn't look even at the Instagram ones that they give you. But I found that finding what analytics to look for and which ones are most important while still engaging with your audience that you currently have is really important. And I think that's what took my content creation to the next level.
Yeah, I feel like analytics can definitely help you if you're, like you said, kind of like stuck along a bubble. Or like if you're just someone, especially like for athlete creators, that's not just naturally getting searched. Like you're not on ESPN all the time. People aren't naturally just trying to follow you. Like following the analytics and kind of doing what the algorithm wants in a way can help you like kind of ride that wave without necessarily having to become an All-American in three in 3 days. Um, Emily, I love that you started talking about like the specific things. Are there any specific terms within like data analysis for social media that you feel like really changed the game for you?
I have a WhatsApp channel that I actually met with Nick from AthleteCon, and he's with Meta, and I wanted to find, like the where they were from to really target what I would be putting out there because I was, Love Island is so prominent right now. I was like, hey, what are you guys watching on Netflix or on Peacock? And I didn't want to ask that question if, we were working with someone in a different country or who didn't understand. So I think that knowing, like those location demographics, but also age and gender demographics, like really helps. So those are like what I really look for.
It makes sense a lot too for college athletes. Like I feel like if you go into your profile, you most likely see like if you've been posting for a while, like people from like your hometown and then like everyone from college. I have like a high percentage from like New York, even though I haven't lived in New York that long and I didn't think people really cared. But like the Syracuse and Cornell fans really have shown out for me over the last couple of years. Jeremy, what about you? Are there any insights that we might want to break down for, for the listeners right now?
Think about your fan. Obviously, somebody is interested in my sport and in athleticism and in competition, stuff like that, but they're interested in a lot more than that, right? People are not singularly identifiable by one thing. So when you start to kind of put those two things together, like, okay, well, what might people who are going to those schools be interested in that are different from other places? What is a uniquely New York experience versus somewhere else? And can I capture some of that with my content? I started just making content that was like not necessarily about me or my music, but about the things that people I wanted to see would also like. And that's when it went from like, 5,000 Instagram followers for years to like 25,000 in like 2 months.
If you walk into an NIL seminar right now, you're going to hear about engagement rate. You're going to hear about like maybe click through rate. You're going to hear about CPM. I want to break into those a little bit because I feel like those are huge, especially now. I feel like maybe when we were like middle school, early high school, I felt like a lot of people wanted to grow followers just to the sake of like I have like a K on my followers list. Jeremy, do you mind just breaking down like how your following and those metrics actually turn into brand deals and monetization? And then Emily, you can probably weigh in too.
I spoke about this at a conference that we were all at. It's like followers don't mean now what they used to mean, but they're not useless. Like to me, it's we talk about telling a story with data a lot, and it's like growing followers is valuable in the sense that it means that you do understand how to create content and reach people who said, I want to see more of that. Whether or not they ever get to is kind of out of your control. Unfortunately, it's kind of out of all of our control, and it might change every 6 months. There were people at the conference that we went to with 10 million plus followers who have the same frustrations we do in terms of like, why is it not reaching? That being said, brands are also aware of that. And I think that brands usually depends on the size of the brand. Like I've worked with some smaller companies who are very ROI driven, which means we have to sit down and we have to talk about what is the right package or what is the right approach for them where like they're directly trying to sell things. And I've also worked with brands who like their social media sponsored post, UGC post is just, it's a piece of their puzzle. They have a big marketing budget and it's a sliver. And what they are getting from working with somebody like Emily Pierce or Sydney Moore or me is something that they can't get by creating in-house, right? If they wanted to just reach people, they would go pay for it. It's cheaper to just run ads. Truthfully, it's cheaper to just run ads. And they probably are running ads, right? But they can't get authentic voice. They can't get your buy-in. They can't get people who see you every day. And sometimes it's about the influence and sometimes it's just about feeling like, hey, this actually is a real person who is like probably like me and has the same issues I do with skin or with, working out or with motivation or whatever it is.
I love that. I think at that point, we're kind of just talking about like the influencer industry and the fact that online like content creation and influencers, which if you're an athlete posting, like you are, like even though like we don't always like the influencer term and everyone has a different term, like that is like the section of the industry that you're in for the most part, and you're in like a niche of that. Emily, do you have any kind of insights from your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've had pretty amazing deals, and I am with a management company, which I'm really grateful for. I've worked with GoGo Squeeze, C4, Dove, at AthleteCon. And so having those experiences with those companies have really shown me that you don't need to have 100K followers to have a brand deal. And I think that's really important to know because there's a lot of people who want to make content in this space and they're kind of turned away because they don't think they can get 10,000 followers or that K like you were talking about. I have some small companies reach out to me all the time and they're like, hey, we would love to work with you because we love this. And I'm super grateful to get those texts because I know I'm reaching, that one person or that one audience that they think they can give me something to put into my everyday routine and kind of show off. So just showing your authentic voice and creating your brand, not because you're scared that you won't get that K or you won't get that 10K followers, is really important and something really important to remember.
You just have to trust that if you are good and if you show up, like you don't have to have 10,000 followers to prove that you make content that 10,000 people would want to follow, right? Just make content that you like, that's good. And yeah, whether you've got 500 people, like a brand will recognize that. They can be, and sometimes it's more exciting for them. They're like, we want to work with that person now because we know that person, when they do get the spotlight, is going to be 100K, a million. Like there's some excitement to that. There's a little bit of that kind of like hidden gem element to it as well.
Emily, I loved when you first like posted about RootNote a couple weeks ago. I think you like posted an actual photo of your dashboard, and I was like, that was so brave and confident. Like I feel like that's like a lot of people kind of gatekeep their analytics a little bit. Is there any like a specific engagement rate that you like target, or Jeremy, is there an engagement rate that you think is kind of like the gold standard for a creator?
I really enjoyed calling RootNote and talking to RootNote a lot because I didn't really know, the percentages. I didn't know it was good. I remember I was like, what's a good engagement rate? Because I was looking at mine and some of the videos were like 0 point. I was like, oh no. But then some were like 10 and I was like, this is crazy. And it was really interesting to see, the comparison between TikTok, Instagram, even Snapchat. Like it was really weird to see that people were more engaged on my TikTok, even though I had less followers on TikTok, but Instagram, there was a higher skip rate. It was really interesting to see. But from what I remember, it was like 2 to 5% is good on Instagram. And I know it's kind of hard to find that engagement rate, but I know it's pretty easy through RootNote. But Jeremy would definitely know more.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the plug. Engagement rate is funny because it is such an important metric, not just for you as a creator, but what its brands are looking at it too. And so many people do it incorrectly. Do not go Google what's my engagement rate and put your Instagram handle in something and expect it to be right. You're going to get 10 different sites with 10 different answers, and because they're all doing something that just isn't accurate. We have a specific way to measure engagement rate that we tell people when they use RootNote. It says this is exactly how it goes. And part of that is you can only get it by actually syncing your accounts with a platform like, for, you know, RootNote. There are other platforms that you can sync as well, but like part of the data has to come from their API backend, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, Emily was right on the head there. Like, it's contextual. Every platform can be different. Obviously, if you post something that gets 1,000 views, but it was your hardcore base and you get, 100 likes on it and 20 comments, like, you're going to have a killer engagement rate. That's what you're going to have, that over 10% engagement rate that Emily's talking about. So you have to realize, like, that's a big success too, right? Because even though you didn't get all those views, like, that, hey, my core base that follows me, like, they like this. So I need to log away that every now and then I need to go back and post something like this. I need to serve this metric. I agree, 2 to 5% typically, depending on the platform. But I would consider that, like, in that range is, as a whole, is good. But if you start to break down each individual piece of content and you're performing a certain style that you see constantly gets higher engagement but lower views, that's okay. That's great. Log that away as keep trying to do this. And if it kind of starts to dip and you start to see that less, it doesn't necessarily mean people like it less, but it might mean your audience has grown. Versus, don't freak out if you have an engagement rate of 0.5% or 1% on a video that got 100,000 views. Yeah, that can totally happen too. Sometimes it's still a win, but you just have to log away. Okay, I know that this content might be good for one thing, but I always have to be varying up what I'm doing in order to pay attention to who I'm trying to reach and who's telling me, like, I want more of this.
As a master's in marketing, like, I just finished my marketing program. We did a class on digital marketing and we were taught about these strategies, like, coming from the brand side. And we were taught, hey, there's different types of influencers. You might choose someone like Alex Earl, who has, millions and millions of followers, might not have a high engagement rate because it's physically very, very difficult to have a 5% engagement rate when you have millions of people, right? Like, you have to now have 5% of 20 million people comment. There's probably just not that many people out there who want to comment and do that, right?
And like half the time they're like, so pretty, great, excellent. Right. And it's like, they're not actually thinking about the thing that you were talking about.
Right. There's an opportunity to have a low engagement rate and have a high following. So if you have a high following, that this should not necessarily discourage you. And at the same way, if you have a smaller following, but you are more likely to have a higher engagement rate. And that's what Emily is also talking about, of like smaller brands who really want to see what Emily is doing and knows that Emily's followers are going to like follow that and listen to that. And they're trying to hit a specific audience. So these, again, like, these are just ways for you to feel like, hey, you understand the industry, that when you get into a conversation, you're not alone, that they're not necessarily things to base your entire worth off. There's lots of ways to do this, but how do we present this to brands? Do we go right off the bat DMing like, hi, I have a 5% engagement rate, I'd love to work with you? How does your analytics and what you're doing translate to actually having those negotiations or those conversations?
I gotta be honest, I'm still a little uncomfortable with DMs, which is I know it's a weird thing to say, like, I'm like an email person. It just feels so private to me. So whatever way you start the conversation, I don't think coming in really hot with like, I have this number of followers and this amount of engagement and this is what I could do for you, I don't think necessarily that's the right tactic every time. I think usually that's kind of like a follow-up thing. Usually when I'm reaching out to a brand, it's like, I'm aware of what you do and the type of content you create, and I'm excited by what you do. It's kind of like any way that you would try to make a friend or whatever. You don't walk up to somebody on the playground when you're 5-year-old and like, I'm awesome, check me out. You're like, those are really cool shoes, I love your lunchbox. Wow, you like, let's be friends. It really has that level to it. Then once they're like paying attention to you, then yes, I think the stats, I would typically go with the thing that I'm feeling most confident about at the time. We have a thing in RootNote called Data Spaces. It's an interactive media kit. It doesn't have to be Data Space, it can be any media kit, but I change what I'm talking about all the time. If I'm like, oh snap, my impressions are through the roof, I'm like, look at these impressions, y'all. But if it's more like, if it's kind of a down period, I'm more like, I post a lot of, I post pretty consistently, and here's examples of all the fun different stuff I've done. Plus, here's all the brands I've worked with, right? If you have that, that's always great. If you don't, it's okay. But I would definitely say start with like I acknowledge you. I like your brand. What you do is cool. And then you can start to ease into the thing that you feel represents you best. No more than like 2 numbers really at any given time, because eventually people's eyes glaze over with numbers. When you get into like talking about what you're going to make and how much money and how, when they can expect the content, like when you're negotiating the deal, then you can get a little more specific. But right off the bat, I think keep the numbers to like 2 to 3 max.
Like sometimes I reach out through DMs, but I agree with Jeremy. I'm like, the email is most professional. I think it's the best way to reach out. It's really hard to get brand deals because especially if you have less followers, but if you have a management team or if you find the right people to contact, that can get you a step up in the game.
My trick is always LinkedIn. Whatever team, whatever brand partnerships team. That's what I search in LinkedIn, and usually able to find like the brand partner or like corporate sponsor, marketing person, and email them.
Creators really sleep on LinkedIn. I didn't realize too, Emily, I think you do a great job of this, so I don't think you have this problem, but like a lot of people are still hesitant to like cross post their videos on like their TikTok videos on Reels and stuff like that. Yeah. I had no idea that was because I'm just like, whatever, into the void it goes. I just post everywhere, but people get really, really self-conscious about it. And like, you gotta not be, because you're missing out on pieces of data. Like everything, you could be in a downswing on one platform, but you could be rocking on another. And then you're going to go approach that brand on that channel, right? You're gonna be like, I want to work with you on Instagram right now because look at all my Instagram, data recently.
That's true. And also it might help you feel better. That is so true. There was one, I posted on Instagram, like so bad. And I posted on TikTok, I had like 11,000 likes and all these people were commenting, and I was like, okay, like my content didn't suck, I was just in the wrong room. Okay, that's fine. There's one last like kind of piece that I want to bring up here, and this is something that I like struggled with a lot when I was like kind of started taking content creation and just like doing what I loved more seriously and like posting it online. What I create like on the podcast isn't necessarily like consistent with an athlete creator. This is not the day in the life content that people sign up for. And I really struggled at first with recognizing that sometimes like the engagement rate and the interest that I saw like from these normal metrics of what people liked was different from what I wanted to produce, and trying to, spending the time to figure out what's the audience that actually wants, what I want. Do you think it's true, like to grow, that you have to do day in the life, that you have to do the TikTok dances, that you have to kind of like compromise? And I don't know, like I want to hear your thoughts, and then I want to hear like some strategy. What are things to try to see if maybe what you love actually does work out in the end?
That's a good question. Oh my gosh. The easiest thing to do are the day in the lives, and not those deeper conversations, like the important ones you're having, Sydney. And I think that it's really important to be authentic and real on social media, because I think that's what people want to see. And you don't have to show all of yourself. You don't have to be like, this is what happened today. I feel sick today. You don't have to see every single thing. But I think, being your real self is really important, no matter the demographics. I think you can test around in different waters. You can say, here's a day in my life, or here's my story behind my 2 brain surgeries that I had, or here's a Go-Go Squeeze NIL deal, or here's a travel with me. I've tried a lot of different things. I haven't tried those TikTok dances yet. Maybe I think that if you can test around in different waters and find what, not necessarily, if you don't like doing it, I don't suggest you do it. So you need to find kind of a happy medium of what your audience likes and what you like. And if they don't like it, then don't do it if you don't want to do it.
Yeah. I think about it too, like other forms of creators. If like, think about your favorite artists, like they don't just get a hit song and then just keep writing verses to that hit song, right? They go write a different song. Sometimes they switch up styles. Sometimes they go Andre 3000 and release a flute album, who cares? To me, you are never married to any one particular content style, and you are always more than the thing you're good at. I think that's the biggest thing. And I know that, you talk with a lot of athletes, you have a large athlete audience. I promise it's the same for athletes as it is for a musician, as it is for anybody else who started getting first recognized for being good at something, right? Like you are more than that. And ultimately the people who are going to support you for the rest of your career and life are the people who are interested in what there is more to you. So I think that that's a really kind of reassuring thing to think about.
Thank you guys so much for coming on the show today and talking about data analytics, your own content creation journey. I know that this has helped people. If you are listening to this episode right now and you are interested, you're feeling fired up, and or maybe you're just a little bit curious, I definitely recommend you go check out RootNote. I'll have all of the information as we finish the episode. You guys will hear all about it, see what it looks like. And then, as always, head to the Let's Talk About It website, ltvipod.com, for more information. And like I said, I'm going to give you guys that glossary. So you're basically passing up free game if you don't head over to the website right now. Emily, Jeremy, thank you guys again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Sid. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Let's Talk About It, brought to you by RootNote, the all-in-one platform creators rely on to track growth, pitch brands, and turn content into revenue. With support for dozens of platforms like TikTok and Instagram to Shopify and Patreon, you can get unified analytics, real-time dashboards, and beautiful drag and drop data spaces. For more information, go to rootnote.co, that is ROOTNOTE.co, and I'll see you guys next week.